Hey gang, I'm in Wichita, Kansas, and I'm at a cemetery called Highland Cemetery, and there's a few famous people here, one of which is, of course, we're in Wichita, one of the three famous, I would say, the three famous cow towns that come to mind. You have Abilene and, of course, Dodge City, and you've got Wichita. But who do you think of when you think of these, the lawmen? You think of Wyatt Earp, you think of Bat Masterson, and we're going to visit the grave of the brother of Bat Masterson, one of his many brothers, James Patrick Masterson, who himself was a lawman who traveled around the Midwest. And this was quite a notable area, of course. This was one of the distribution points where they would be bringing the cattle from Texas on their way to the railroad so they could get that cattle out east to the slaughterhouses. And there was a lot of lawlessness that was happening here, and they needed a lot of brave lawmen, so many of you know the story. So let's take a walk. A lot of old tombstones here, and we'll look for the grave of James. It's very hot. It's almost 100 degrees right now. It is the evening, so it's not so bad. I'm not going to complain. So Bat Masterson, yeah, everybody knows Bat Masterson. The family was, they started out, they were from Canada, from Quebec actually, and Jim, we'll call him, he went by the name Jim. He was the third child of 7, and it was in 1861 that they came here to the United States. They started out in New York, and they spent some time in Illinois before settling here in Wichita, which was about 1871. It was really booming then. He began his career as a buffalo hunter like so many of the others, and it was an occupation that he would pursue off and on until 1878. Now, I mentioned Wyatt Earp and Bat Masterson, of course. They were here too, and that's where Wyatt Earp really started doing things with Bat, Jim's brother. They were also on the plains at certain times hunting the buffalo. They started out as skinners, a very rough job, a very messy job, but you have to start out somewhere. And they would graduate to hunting the buffalo and running stagecoaches, and they all kind of gravitated to law and order. Of course, they were into gambling, and we'll argue till the cows come home, no pun intended, on the vices that they got into and running both sides of the law. But I think my own opinion is, for the most part, they were good men, tough guys in their time. It was early in 1874 that EARP moved to this cow town. And it was the reason Wyatt Earp came here was because his older brother James and his wife ran a brothel here. And, focusing on Wyatt for a second, he was appointed to the Wichita police force. Now, in April of 1877, they had moved up to Dodge City, and they got out of here. And as many of you may have seen in the movie Wyatt Earp, and by the way, I have to weigh in on this. The movie, and I may get criticized for this, but I do know my Western history enough to be dangerous. I'm no academic, but that movie Tombstone was a joke. If you watch the Kevin Costner Wyatt Earp, it's a much more accurate portrayal of the story that involved all of these men. I mean, the movie Tombstone, I have to give credit to Val Kilmer, and that's about it. He did a great job as Doc Holliday, but Johnny Ringo dressed up as a clown pirate with 2 6-guns and all that, that movie was a joke. But anyway, getting back to the story, yeah, they all headed up to Dodge City, and they had to really get tough there. And one tough brother of the family was Ed Masterson, and he was, as they say, he's described as a very affable guy. And Wyatt and the other guys, they wouldn't fool around. Drunk cowboys wielding their guns, they would hit him over the back of the head. They'd call it buffalo the guy with the pistol handle. But Ed was Mr. Nice Guy and Mr. Diplomat, and always trying to talk his way into, and it's admirable. Peaceable guy. Well, he ran into the wrong group of cowboys, and they just basically shot him in the stomach at about 2 feet away. So Jim took over. He took over as deputy under Bat, and they did their thing. No guns allowed. And when it was time to move on, he moved to a place called Trinidad, which is in Colorado, where he served as a deputy, and he was later there a township constable. And then in 1884, he moved to New Mexico. In 1885, he was appointed the undersheriff of Colfax County. He was doing pretty well, but he did not fare too well there. Got on a lot of people's bad side. And he kind of was resorted to running the saloon and card games, and he finally had to get out of there. Now, in 1893, probably one of the most infamous events happened that Jim was involved in, and that is what's called the Battle of Ingalls. That's in Oklahoma, just south of here, that is the haunt, was the haunt of, as many of you know, if you know your history on the west, Coffeyville is nearby, and that's where the Dalton family tried their famous raid later, which would be their doom, the brothers. Not all of them, I think all of them except one, who spent most of his life in prison after that. But not getting off topic, he was one of the 13 marshals and deputies that went down there because they had gotten intel that the Doolin gang was there, and they were with the Dalton boys, all holed up in town. And they snuck in there with 2 covered wagons at night, and they tried to ambush these guys. But in the gang there was a guy, Bitter Creek Newcomb, all these famous characters, who had a little confrontation with one of the sheriffs. I think it was, his name was Speed, and they had like a rifle shootout together, and the sheriff got the best of him. Actually, when he shot the bullet, they both shot at the same time, and the marshal's bullet hit the magazine right under the barrel of Newcomb's rifle, and it ricocheted, destroyed the rifle, hit him in the thigh, brought him down. So he was off, he was trying to get away, but that alerted all the other guys. And there was a huge shootout. They were, Bill Doolin and the Dalton brothers and the rest of them were all holed up in the saloon getting drunk. And even the saloon owner, I think his name was Murray, he joined in the fight with the outlaws. And there was one guy, Arkansas, what was his name? Arkansas Tom Jones. Just think of the singer. 19 years old. And he's on the second floor of the hotel next door, sleeping because he's sick. And of course, all the shooting starts, he gets his rifle, and he's got a bird's eye view of what's going on. He's in the perfect position. He starts picking people off. So he killed 1 or 2 of the guys. I can't remember, but I know he killed at least 1. And it was just pandemonium. Well, Bill Doolin got out unscathed. One of the Dalton brothers, it was Bill or Bob, I know it wasn't Grat, was shot off his horse was shot out from under him. He tumbled to the ground. He had an exchange of gunfire, and he ended up killing the deputy or sheriff that was in that. But anyway, these guys all got away except for the guy in the attic. He climbed up to the attic from the second floor. The sniper, Arkansas Tom Jones, and Jim came in. He came upstairs, and he was able to either talk him out, or he threatened to take a stick of dynamite and just blow him up. And I think he talked him out of it. And the guy was practically out of, this 19-year-old kid was practically out of ammunition, so they got him. It's the only prisoner. And that's kind of Jim's claim to fame. Now, the Doolin gang, we know what happened to the Daltons, and for those of you who don't know, they tried to rob 2 banks at once in Coffeyville, and they got their you-know-whats completely handed to them. And yeah, it was a pretty bad deal. They laid them out. You'll see the famous picture of the Daltons laid out like trophies. And I know it was Grat, and it was all of them. the Doolin gang, they all got theirs. Bitter Creek Newcomb, he was with another guy. He got, and the guys that got him was Heck Thomas, Bill Tillman, and I can't remember the others guy. They were known as the Guardsmen. They ended up hunting all these guys down. They were kind of like the last gangs of the train robbing, bank robbing era. And they ended up killing them all, but Bill Doolin, they unloaded on him. They had him cornered and he tried to shoot it out, literally face to face on a road. I think it was at night. And they leveled the buckshot double barrel. I forget which one of the guys killed him, but there's a picture. I'll put a picture here of what your body looks like when you're filled with those holes. Here is the grave right up here. I think it is a family plot for the Mastersons. Jim would die of consumption. They called it hasty consumption, and I haven't looked it up, but I assume it means that he didn't linger. It came upon him and took him pretty quick. So let's take a look here at the tombstone. Now I see the name Minnie, and I am pretty sure that is the name of Jim's wife, although my understanding was she remarried. I don't think she's buried here. So we'll have to do a little checking on that. And I see T and C Masterson. I know Tom was his dad's name. C, I don't think that was his mom's first initial. I don't know if the flashlight's going to help us here, but I'll try. But this is very, very hard to read. Yeah, that definitely says Minnie, but I don't know if she's buried here. And I can't read that, but perhaps we'll be able to read it when we get into, when this is produced. So I can't read it here, but you guys, I got this mega imaging card sensor on this camera, 4K plus, man. So you guys, maybe you can tell me what this all says. Let's just see a few things, but it's definitely Masterson. We know that. So there it is. It indicates that Jim is buried here, and there are some stones here that I see. The picture on Find a Grave, and it just goes to show you, has this chalice. I think it looked like a chalice was intact, and now it's just crumbling away just a few years later. Oh, look at this, mother and father. Here we go. All right, more stuff. Let's see. I'm going to get the flashlight out here again, and let's see. We have mother, died March 6, 1908. That's his mom. 76 years. Father. So the mother and father are here. 97. I think that's Thomas's father. There's nothing here. Gosh, I hope oh, here's something. George. So we have George. Is that a brother? November 1st, 1892. Oh, here we go. James. James is here. 1855 and 1893. Okay. That is confirmed. All right. It's an honor for me to be paying respects to this family. James and Bat Masterson and WYATT and Doc and Boy, they were all legends, let me tell you. It was said that by one of the contemporaries of Jim, one of the guys, the old timers that was alive then, he said that Jim, he could outdraw Wyatt Earp, he could outdraw Bat. He was very good with the gun. Although I will say, although Wyatt may not have been the fastest, it really wasn't about being fast. It was about taking a deliberate shot, remaining calm under pressure. I remember, I've read a lot of books on this subject, and Wyatt would hit his target while the other guys would just bam, bam, bam and miss. No rapid fire. If you read his obituary, that is Jim's, it says, Jim Masterson was a man who never went back on a friend, and he never forgot an obligation. I think that says a lot for a man. So, Masterson family, rest in peace. And Jim, you were a great man. I hope you're resting in peace. And that's going to do it. From here, I am going to go to a couple hours back north. I passed my son's college, Lawrence Jayhawks. I'm heading back there right now. And I'm going to have a dinner and a drink with my son. Although it'll be a little late. All right, catch y'all later.